All right, so today we are going to be solving radical equations. So in order to solve radical equations, there's basically 3 steps that you follow. First thing you do is isolate the radical. Next thing you do is raise each side of the equation to a power that will eliminate the radical. And then finally you solve the equation that's left and check your answer or your solution. Okay, so let's take a look at example 1. We've got 2 times the cube root of 2x plus 7 minus 4 equals 2. So I need to isolate this radical expression right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is add 4 to both sides. And if I do that, I'm left with 2 times the cube root of 2x plus 7 is equal to 6. And then I need to get rid of the 2. It's being multiplied, so the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And so I have the cube root of 2x plus 7 is equal to 3. So now I've got the radical all by itself on the left side of the equation. So to undo a cube root, what power would I raise it to? I would cube it, or the third power, right? And whatever you do to one side, you've got to do to the other side. So I cube both sides of my equation, and I have 2x plus 7 is equal to 27. So then I subtract 7, 2x is equal to 20, and then x would equal 10. And so I want to double check that it works, so I plug it back into my original equation. So 2 times the cube root of 2 times 10 plus 7 minus 4 equals 2. And so that's 2 times the cube root of 27 minus 4 equals 2. It's 2 times 3 minus 4. And so that's 6 minus 4. And so I can see that it works. I did my work correctly. X is equal to 10. Any questions? Alright, so I'll start you guys off with an easier one. After you finish writing down your notes, go ahead and solve the square root of x plus 6 is equal to 3. And you can do it on whiteboards or in your notes, either way, whatever you prefer. Okay, so it looked like everybody got same thing, x equals 3, and if you plug it back in, you can see that it works. Alright, I'll give you one that's a little more complicated. Not much, though. Alright, so let's do 2 times the cube root of x minus 3 plus 5 equals 9. Alright, go ahead and solve that one. All right, so I think all of you were able to come up with 11 as well, correct? Okay. Any questions on that? All right, so now we're going to add a little twist to it, because I know how much you guys love that. Now we're going to do some problems with fractional exponents, which are still just roots, right? Roots and powers. With your fractional exponent, remember the power is on top, the root's on the bottom. Okay. All right. So it's the same idea. I need to isolate the expression that's being raised to a fractional exponent. So in this particular problem, all I have to do is add 1 to both sides. And then I have x plus 2 to the 3/4 power is equal to 8. So when we raise a power to a power, what do we do to our exponents? We multiply them. So what can I multiply 3/4 times for it to essentially go away or become 1? 4/3, right. So I'm going to raise both sides to the 4/3 power. And that way I'm left with just x plus 2 on the left side. So if I'm raising 8 to the 4/3 power, that's like I'm taking the cube root of 8 and then raising it to the 4th power. So that would just be 2 to the 4th, or 16. So that means that x plus 2 equals 16, and so x would equal 14. All right, so I want to check my answer and make sure that it works in the original equation. So 14 plus 2 to the 3/4 minus 1 equals 7. That means 16 to the 3/4 minus 1 equals 7. So I'm taking the 4th root of 16 and cubing it. So that's 2 cubed, or 8. And 8 minus 1 does equal 7. So I know I did my work correctly, and the answer is x equals 14. Okay, any questions? All right, let's take a look at one for you guys to do on your own. Now, for this one, make sure you isolate the x to the 1/5 first. Okay? Do I want that negative 2/3 out in front of it? No, you've got to take care of that first before you worry about roots or powers. Okay? All right, so a few of you are struggling with this one, and I think the main issue is that fraction that's out in front is messing some of you up. So the first thing you have to do is multiply both sides by the reciprocal of the fraction to make it essentially just be x to the 1/5. Okay, so this is all going to cancel out, and you're left with just x to the 1/5 power. And then when you multiply these together, a negative times a negative is positive, and the 2's cancel out, and you're left with 3. So you have x to the 1/5 power is equal to 3. If you don't do that first, you're going to end up with a completely different number for an answer. In fact, it sounds like 48 is what you ended up with, because a few of you got that. So now, if I want to get rid of that 1/5 power, now I have to raise it to the power that's the reciprocal of 1/5, which is 5. And so then x would equal 243. Okay? Any questions? All right. I've got one more example for you. I don't know that any of the ones on the homework tonight are like this one, but I want to do an example for you just in case. This one's going to end up being a little bit different, and I'll explain why in a second. Okay, so I've got x plus 2 to the 2/3 power. I need to subtract 3 from both sides. So I've got x plus 2 to the 2/3. When I subtract the 3, I'm left with 4. And now I'm going to raise both sides to the 3/2 power. So on the left, I'm left with x plus 2. But on the right, I'm taking the square root of 4, and then I'm cubing it, correct? All right. So when I take the square root of 4, I could have a positive square root or a negative square root, because 2 times 2 is 4, but negative 2 times negative 2 is also 4. So when you end up taking an even root, you have to remember that it could be a positive or a negative. So that means that x plus 2 could be positive or negative 2 cubed, which would be positive or negative 8. And so that means we're going to have 2 answers for this one. So when I subtract 2 from both sides, it's going to either be negative 2 plus 8, or it's going to be negative 2 minus 8. And so It could be a positive 6, or it could be a negative 10. And if I go back and I check my answer, in the original equation, I get 8 to the 2/3 plus 3 equals 7. And so that's the cube root of 8, which is 2 squared. Or 4 plus 3 equals 7. So that one works. If I put the other one in, negative 10, this time I have negative 8 to the 2/3. And that's the cube root of negative 8, which is negative 2 squared. And so it still comes out to a positive 4 because I'm squaring it. And so both of the answers work. Okay, so here is one for you guys to try.
Taking a fourth root, so it could be positive or negative.
Okay, could you guys be quiet, please? Thank you. All right, so we need to raise both sides to the 3/4 power, and so when you did that, you got x minus 5 equals 81 to the 3/4. So that means you are taking the fourth root of 81 and cubing it. So what is the fourth root of 81? Is it only positive 3? No, it could be positive or negative 3. And you're going to cube that. And so x minus 5 could be plus or minus 27. And so it could be 5 plus 27 or 5 minus 27. So you get 32 or negative 22. Okay? Questions? All right. That's it for today.